Hey, welcome to Daily Bravo Drama. In this video, we will be talking about, a massive stack of reality news, like Dorit thinking about quitting Bravo and the cast's reaction, plus Tamara and Shannon's secret friendship, the insane publicist drama with Jax Taylor, and like a literal cop using AI to investigate a reality star. We will cover everything coming up in this audio. Hey, this is Delilah.
Hey, this is Fahid.
Welcome to Reality TV Audio Podcast, where we break down the latest in reality TV every day. And today we are taking all these recent news drops, and our mission for you is to sift through the surface level gossip to extract the broader mechanics of how these stars operate.
Right, we're skipping the simple recaps. We want to understand the underlying machinery of reality TV survival, like how these personalities manipulate their public images, the absolute collateral damage to their real-life friendships, and what happens when their manufactured drama crashes headfirst into the actual federal legal system.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It is a vital ecosystem to deconstruct, though. It serves as this funhouse mirror for our own societal relationship with attention and technology.
Yeah.
We're looking for the why and the how behind these headlines. How does a star manage their image when the people they pay to protect them become part of the storyline?
Exactly.
And how does the constant algorithmic feedback of an audience fundamentally rewrite human behavior?
Okay, let's unpack this, because we are charting a course today that starts with the tactical manipulation of Instagram comments, and, well, it ends up in a truly surreal place involving federal prison sentences and an AI police investigation.
Yeah, it's a wild ride.
Totally wild. Let's start with the PR machine and the mechanics of curated realities, focusing on the most viral trending news first. We have a fascinating situation unfolding in the Real Housewives of Orange County universe regarding Tamara Judge and Shannon Beador.
Right, the fallout from that explosive, unaired fight on the upcoming Ultimate Girls Trip.
Yes, that one. So, Tamara recently went on a podcast and outlined exactly where she stands with Shannon. She claims that despite this massive altercation and despite the very real fallout from Shannon's recent season 18 DUI, the two of them are actually fine in private.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah. But Tamara suspects Shannon is purposefully hiding their mended friendship from the public, acting purely, as Tamara put it, for the comments section of Instagram.
What's fascinating here is that phrase, for the comment section. It's incredibly revealing because it outlines a specific behavioral mechanism.
Totally. It implies they're just playing a part.
Right. It implies that the actual interpersonal relationship between these two women has been subordinated to how the audience perceives that relationship. Tamara is suggesting Shannon calculates her real-world behavior based on, algorithmic feedback.
I mean, if the audience expects them to be feuding and rewards that feud with engagement, Shannon will just artificially maintain the hostility in public to satisfy the algorithm.
Yeah, exactly. Regardless of how they interact behind closed doors, the fourth wall is completely gone.
And the way Tamara is defending her own behavior during this Ultimate Girls Trip fight is like a masterclass in semantic PR spin. She is actively trying to control the narrative before the footage even hits television screens.
Oh, the defensive maneuvering is wild.
It is. She deflects by claiming Heather Dubrow was somehow going after her over the incident, even though Heather wasn't even on the trip. And then she brings up Kyle Richards making comments about the Orange County women screaming, using a crossover star to, validate her own storyline.
Right, pulling in other big names to distract.
Yeah, but the most calculated part is her defense against Shannon's claim that Tamara called her a drunk. Tamara goes on record to categorically deny using that specific word. She says, "I don't remember calling her a drunk," but then casually admits she might have made a hand motion mimicking drinking.
Wow. Notice the precise tactical retreat happening there. By denying the specific highly charged word, drunk, but admitting to the pantomime of drinking, she is attempting to set the exact parameters of her guilt for the audience.
Yeah, before they can judge the raw footage.
Exactly. She knows the visual of the pantomime will be caught on camera, so she can't deny it. But by supplying an alternative, seemingly more grounded verbal insult, putting out her husband and college-aged kids, she's framing the altercation not as an attack on Shannon's sobriety, but as a defense of her own stability.
It is a preemptive strike on the audience's interpretation, and it just highlights how exhausting the PR maintenance is. But that is child's play compared to what is happening in the Vanderpump Rules universe.
Oh, right, the complete structural collapse of their PR mechanics.
Yes. So Jax Taylor is apparently dating Lori Krebs. Lori is the longtime shared publicist for both Jax and his estranged wife, Brittany Cartwright.
Which is just a catastrophic conflict of interest.
Completely. Kristen Dow totally unloaded on this situation. She calls Jax diabolical, but she saves her real fury for Lori. Kristen accuses Lori of sleeping with the enemy and betraying a decade of trust, pointing out that Lori was Brittany's paid professional and essentially family.
Well, the underlying mechanics of reality TV public relations make this so messy. A publicist in this ecosystem doesn't just send out press releases. They manage non-disclosure agreements. They control access journalism.
Yeah, leaking stories to blogs and stuff.
Right, to secure favorable storylines for their clients. They know exactly where all the proverbial bodies are buried.
Yeah.
If Lori has spent years managing Brittany's crisis communications, she holds an information monopoly.
And by entering a romantic relationship with Brittany's direct antagonist, that professional firewall just evaporates.
It brings me back to my earlier point, like, if your publicist is supposed to be your shield against media scrutiny, Jax just turned that shield into a weapon to use against his ex.
Yeah, it's like hiring a bodyguard who decides to rob your house. Exactly. But looking at how these stars operate, it makes me question the viability of the entire lifestyle. If your personal life is dictated by Instagram algorithms and the paid professionals you hire end up dating your ex, how does anyone maintain a genuine, untelevised human connection?
They rarely do. The environment fundamentally selects against it.
It really does. Actually, before we get into the human casualties of all this, I want to give a quick shout out to our listener, Mark, in Chicago. He emailed us to say he literally has to use a spreadsheet to keep track of the Vanderpump cast's overlapping PR reps.
A spreadsheet is basically required reading at this point.
Right. And fun fact, Kristen and Stassi Schroeder have known each other for over 15 years, which makes this next transition so sad because the long-term friendships forged in that environment inevitably begin to decay.
Yeah, that causal link brings us directly to the casualties of the camera.
Yeah.
When the foundational trust is destroyed by the demands of a public narrative, things fracture.
We see that decay perfectly illustrated in Kristen Dote's recent updates. These are people she spent over a decade filming with. Yet, she revealed she hasn't spoken to Stassi in 2 years. She says there is no bad blood, they simply have different friend groups now.
Right.
And she admits she is not super close with Shanna Shea anymore, and she only occasionally texts Katie Maloney.
What you are seeing is the natural fracturing of a trauma bond. Once the enforced proximity of television production is removed, the ties just loosen.
Yeah, they aren't forced into a room together anymore.
Exactly. In the early years, cast members are contractually obligated to attend the same events and hash out grievances on camera. The schedule forces reconciliation. Once they aren't filming consistently, the sheer gravitational pull required to maintain those relationships just dissipates.
But then you have the complete opposite trajectory. Kristen brought up Ariana Madix, admitting that back in the early days, she never would have expected the level of success Ariana is seeing now.
Oh, getting nominated for an Emmy for hosting Love Island USA.
Yeah. Ariana completely broke out of the reality TV terrarium.
Because she achieved a phenomenon we can call escape velocity. The reality TV ecosystem operates much like a casino. The house, meaning the network and the producers, always wins because they control the final edit.
Oh, right. They dictate the narrative.
Exactly.
Right.
But Ariana effectively counted cards. During the peak of her scandal with Tom Sandoval and Rachel Leviss, she bypassed the network's edit. She took her narrative directly to the audience via social media, secured outside brand deals, and cashed out her cultural chips before the producers could orchestrate her downfall.
She left the casino entirely. Meanwhile, Kristen is still sitting at the slot machines. During that exact same interview where she praised Ariana, Kristen was still making side notes to shade Lisa Vanderpump and Janet Caperna, calling Craig Conover rude, and publicly stating she refuses to condone Danny Bucco's behavior.
She is still actively playing the game.
Very actively. But if we want to examine someone who has lost the game completely and is dealing with the fallout, we have to look at Brandi Glanville. Brandi is dealing with extreme isolation, and her defense strategies have become completely unhinged.
Unhinged is definitely the word.
Right. She recently defended Danielle Oliveira against homewrecker claims regarding Ayo and Heavy, who was legally married at the time he and Danielle were involved. To defend Danielle, Brandi used her own chaotic past as a rhetorical shield. She claimed that because her own divorce took so long, She purposefully, quote, was sleeping with every one of Eddie Cibrian's friends while separated.
I mean, that is a staggering rhetorical strategy.
Yeah.
She is attempting to normalize Danielle's behavior by volunteering her own extreme transgressions.
It's just wild to admit that publicly.
The logic she is deploying is her actions aren't that bad because I have done much worse. It highlights a severely skewed moral compass developed inside a bubble where outrageous behavior is traditionally rewarded with screen time.
But she is deploying this strategy at a time when she has lost her platform, because her ongoing feud with Tamra Judge revealed just how isolated Brandy has become. Tamra noted that Teddy Mellencamp was literally telling people at a lunch event not to take photos with Brandy.
Yeah, that specific detail about taking photos is so telling.
Apparently, it's because Brandy is allegedly being canceled following the serious, unaired sexual assault allegations made by Caroline Manzo during their season of Ultimate Girls Trip.
Right, which reveals the underlying economy of reality television friendships. Proximity is currency. Taking a photo with a castmate and posting it online is a signal to the audience and the producers about your alliances.
So if Brandy is facing severe legal and liability issues, she becomes radioactive.
Exactly. Taking a photo with her signals that you are aligned with a liability. Teddy telling people not to take photos isn't just high school mean girl behavior. It is a calculated business directive to protect their own brand viability.
I have to ask, though, is there an inevitable shelf life for these reality TV friendships? Looking at the mechanics, it seems like eventually you only have two options. You either hit escape velocity like Ariana, or you end up totally radioactive and isolated like Brandy.
There doesn't seem to be a middle ground where you just retire and stay friends.
Right.
Well, the environment selects for conflict. The people who survive the longest are often those willing to sacrifice real relationships for the sake of the narrative. The skills required to be a phenomenal reality star, hyperreactivity, holding grudges, are the exact opposite of the skills required to be a good friend in the real world.
Yeah, that makes sense. The shelf life is inherently limited by the psychological toll, but the true breaking point isn't always interpersonal. Eventually, the manufactured narrative collides with institutions that cannot be manipulated by a publicist.
Or an Instagram comment.
Exactly. Here's where it gets really interesting. What happens when the reality TV circus crashes into the federal justice system and active law enforcement? Because the script completely stops working.
It really does.
Let's look at the explosive claims regarding Teresa Giudice. According to Kim DePaula, a longtime peripheral player in the Real Housewives of New Jersey universe, a deal has allegedly been struck for Teresa to exit the show gracefully.
Right, moving to Florida and her house likely going up for auction.
Yeah, but the actual bombshell is why Bravo is allegedly facilitating this. Kim claims that production feels responsible for Teresa and Joe Giudice going to federal prison years ago.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the mechanism Kim is describing suggests a massive shift in corporate liability.
She claims that years ago, production actively pushed Teresa to use a massive sum of physical cash to pay for items at a furniture store while filming, simply because it made for flashy television. And according to Kim, that televised cash transaction is what initially caught the eye of the authorities, sparking the federal wire fraud investigation.
I mean, the implications of that claim are immense. Producers are tasked with creating content, which often involves encouraging cast members to flaunt their wealth. If a producer explicitly directs a star to execute a massive cash transaction, and that visual evidence triggers a federal investigation, the line between documenting reality and orchestrating a crime scene becomes incredibly blurred.
Wait, I have to push back heavily on that premise, though.
Oh.
Yeah, I struggle to buy the idea that a massive television network is suddenly operating out of a deep sense of moral guilt over a wire fraud conviction from a decade ago. Suggesting a star pays in cash for the aesthetic of the show is manipulative, absolutely. But it doesn't force anyone to actually commit federal wire fraud or hide assets from the IRS.
That is a highly critical distinction, yeah.
Isn't Kim's claim here just another sophisticated PR spin? It feels like an attempt to absolve Teresa of her own agency by shifting the blame onto a faceless corporation. We're just looking at the facts from the source, but it sounds like an excuse.
Right. A federal investigation relies on paper trails, hidden assets, and systemic fraud, not just a single flashy purchase on camera. The visual of the cash may have been the catalyst, but the underlying crime was committed independently. You're likely right that framing production as responsible is a narrative strategy to sanitize Teresa's legacy as she potentially exits the franchise.
Exactly. It paints her as a victim of the machine rather than a perpetrator. These stars manufacture drama for a living, but the real world, the FBI, the IRS, active protective orders, does not operate on a Bravo script. And speaking of protective orders, we have to examine the situation unfolding with Taylor Frankie Paul and Dakota Mortensen from The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives.
Yeah, this story highlights a deeply concerning mechanism regarding how law enforcement interacts with reality stars. It is arguably one of the most dangerous intersections of emerging technology and local law enforcement we have ever seen.
It is wild. So Dakota suspected that Taylor hired a private investigator named Christopher Gulbra to stalk him. Dakota believes this violates an active protective order currently in place against Taylor. So he calls the authorities. A police officer in Utah, Officer Chad Cady, responds to the call.
Right.
And while conducting an active investigation into a domestic dispute, right there on his body camera, Officer Cady pulls out ChatGPT on his phone.
He bypasses standard legal protocols to consult a commercial artificial intelligence chatbot for guidance on interpreting a legal protective order.
Yes, he uses the AI tool to try and determine if hiring a private investigator actually violated the legally binding terms of Taylor's protective order. Instead of contacting a district attorney or talking to a judge, he is typing the parameters of a domestic dispute into ChatGPT to see what it says.
To understand why this is so catastrophic, we have to look at the mechanics of how large language models actually function. ChatGPT does not possess a database of legal truth. It is a probabilistic text generator.
Right, it just predicts words.
Exactly. It simply predicts the most likely next word in a sentence based on its training data. It is notoriously prone to hallucinations, which means it will invent case law, misinterpret statutes, and present entirely fabricated information with absolute confidence.
So in a legal context, applying that algorithm to a protective order could easily result in a hallucinated loophole that doesn't exist.
Yes. This could lead to a wrongful arrest, or worse, failing to protect a victim because the AI incorrectly advised the officer that no violation occurred.
The pushback from experts was immediate. Greg Rogers, a retired FBI agent and criminal justice professor, publicly condemned the use of AI in this active police investigation, calling it highly inappropriate. He raised serious alarms about how these tools are being recklessly misused by law enforcement officers who don't understand the technology.
Though, frustratingly, reports indicate that the local department's policy technically allows officers to consult AI tools.
Which is just terrifying.
It really demonstrates how deeply the tech solution mindset has infected institutions that require rigorous human judgment. Look at the bizarre feedback loop we've arrived at.
Seriously. Let's take a breath and recap the journey we've mapped out today. For you listening, consider the sheer escalation of the mechanics we've explored. We started with Tamra Judge playing semantic defense over the word drunk, and Shannon Bedore maintaining an illusion of hostility strictly to feed the Instagram algorithm. Oh, and Dorit potentially leaving the network, which just adds to the overall PR panic.
Yeah, the foundational reality TV playbook.
Exactly. Then we moved into the complete structural decay of decade-long friendships, observing the collateral damage of publicists like Lori Krebs weaponizing access and Brandi Glanville dealing with the radioactive isolation of being deemed a brand liability.
And we concluded by looking at a reality where television producers are being blamed for federal prison sentences and actual sworn police officers are firing up ChatGPT on their body camera to navigate the protective orders of reality stars.
It is a staggering progression. The mechanics required to survive on reality television are no longer confined to the screen. They have fundamentally rewritten how these individuals govern their private lives, how they strategize their legal defenses, and incredibly, how the justice system attempts to regulate them.
It leaves us with a critical, lingering question to ponder long after we finish this analysis. If local police are now deploying artificial intelligence to interpret the legal drama of reality stars, and television networks are factoring real-world criminal liability into their casting decisions, at what point does the reality completely consume the television part of the equation?
That's a great question.
Will we eventually see justice systems adopting reality TV production tactics to solve crimes, or will AI simply begin generating the drama for the stars, bypassing the volatile human element altogether?
When the underlying mechanisms of the show become the operating system for real life, the game never actually stops. And before we go, I want to leave you with a quick tease for tomorrow's audio. We've got a massive story breaking about a huge Bravo star who might have just accidentally leaked their entire season's finale on a hot mic, and the network is scrambling. You definitely won't want to miss it. So what does this all mean? Keep questioning the narrative, look for the mechanics behind the headlines, and thank you for joining us on this deep dive.